episode 146 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV show, anime, manga, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we discuss it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by Kyle Springer.
I have chocolate milk, and it's great. It was probably a bad decision to have that for breakfast / like in the middle of a podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's the morning, and chocolate milk is so good. So
I was just thinking about
myself.
how good chocolate milk is and how long it's been since I've had chocolate milk.
I think about it often.
I think for me, chocolate milk has just become coffee, like a mocha drink, an iced mocha drink. I don't
fair.
want it
That's
without
like
the coffee in it anymore.
Chocolate milk, but I'm just a big kid, so and I have it in my Iron Man cup, which if you are astute Christopher Cantwell fans, he's currently writing Iron Man. So there you go. Little bit of an Easter egg, I guess.
Fun.
How are you? How's your weekend been?
It's okay. I took myself out for a little bit of a drive yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Since the weather's warmed up enough and it wasn't an ice hellscape.
There you go. Were you just wandering, or were you looking at houses, or were you looking...
I did look at houses. Why would I go somewhere that doesn't have any houses to look at? I get bored just looking at fields.
I mean, maybe there's like crop circles in the field or something. I don't know.
I don't think you can make a crop circle in the middle of February. I don't know if there are crops to circle.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I spent yesterday watching another one of these fan-controlled football games.
Oh.
And it was a lot of fun. My team lost the legit like last play. 2 games in a row, we lost on the last play. And it's despite us losing, these games are so fun to watch. They're so intense and so just like, what's gonna happen? I don't know. So it's good. It's fun. That's what I've been up to this weekend.
Nice weekend.
Yeah. Well, what are we talking about today, Melissa?
We are continuing our ongoing monthly coverage of the TV drama Halt and Catch Fire. And last month, we covered season 1. We are back with season 2. Kyle, how did you find season 2?
This email found me well. No, so I enjoyed it. I still really, really like this show, though this wasn't necessarily what I wanted from a season 2. It was, just not the direction I wanted the show to go in, but it was still really good. It was still like, I think season 1 did such a good job of making us really invested in these characters, whether we like them or not. And I was kind of, I guess, expecting this show to stick with like this core group at that company. And they all stick there and they're like, okay, we put out the giant and it did middling. So now what do we do? And we need to do something else. We need to do version 2 and put in that operating system that has the like personal assistant thing that responds and stuff like that. And it wasn't that. It kind of switches gears and goes somewhere else. So that was a bit of a surprise, but because you are invested in these characters, you're still just like, well, I guess this makes sense, and I want to see what happens, so give me more.
Season 1, it's got a very specific goal, and that kind of is a bit of a clock on it. You know, they need to have the giant finished in time to debut at Comdex and then to launch in the market by a certain time. Season 2 doesn't have that same sort of specific objective to it for any of these people, and certainly not on the same time frame. So it has a much more freeform sort of feeling. You don't know episode to episode exactly what's going to be happening next or what they're going to be building to.
Yes, season 1 kind of had this impending doom, right? Or this
yes.
deadline. Whereas season 2 doesn't have that. It's just like, okay, now they're like, season 2 felt more like they were in the middle of some giant frozen lake and the ice is getting real thin and it's starting to crack.
Yeah.
And like, that's what that felt like. So there is still this like impending doom of like, this is a shit show. How is this still going? Like, how does Mutiny still exist? Because this is ridiculous. Like there's that kind of like underlying like something is about to happen and it's gonna fuck up everyone. And you don't really know what that is for most of the season. So.
Yeah, it's amazing that the show can give you so many different types of feelings of impending doom.
Multiple dooms, yeah.
Yeah, especially since this season the characters were a bit more split up. They're not all located at Cardiff Electric anymore. You know, in season 1, you had the sense that if something happened, it could affect everybody at once. Whereas this is what's going to happen in Joe's storyline that's going to affect Gordon over there. We don't know.
Yeah. Who has no idea that it was Joe that affected him because it's going to come by way of someone else. And
yeah.
So it's a little bit obfuscated. If that's is that the right word?
Yes. Yeah, that's a good one.
Obfuscated. Okay. Yeah. So I guess like basic plot synopsis for this season is after they had put out their personal computer, the Giant, to success, but not the success that they wanted. The group kind of split up. Cameron, who was their programmer, split off at the end of season 1 and created her own company called Mutiny. And it was this like free-for-all programming commune. There's no bosses. It's just do what you want. We're gonna make video games and do stuff like that. And eventually, I'm already blanking on her name.
Donna. Donna comes to work for them as the hardware specialist in this house full of coders.
Yeah. It just seems like this big like house full of college kids
and one mom.
And one mom, and then eventually they get a dad.
Boz is out of jail this season after cyber crime, embezzling money from Nathan Cardiff.
Yep. So that is kind of the main plot, is we are watching Mutiny try to conduct business. Like we said, it feels like they are on thin ice. They're living check to check. There is this feeling that something is going to go wrong and it will be bad. In the meantime, Joe is kind of in the wind. He's not really doing much. He's trying to have a normal life. And he ends up taking a job at another company. It's not the job he wants and he hates it. And then again, who's Donna's husband's name again? I keep forgetting
Gordon.
These names. I'm terrible. Gordon. I should know this stuff by now. But Gordon is also kind of floundering, right?
Yeah.
Where he doesn't really know what he wants to do exactly. He's has a little bit of money from the buyout that happened.
He's
at
quite
the
a
start
bit of
this
money.
Season when they left. Cardiff Electric.
Yeah, the season picks up about
so.
a year and a half after the end of season 1, and after the success of the Giant, another company has acquired Cardiff Electric. So Gordon is provided like an $800,000 buyout. So now he has a lot of money and he finds himself struggling to find out exactly what he wants to do with it. Like, he can do anything now, and the season is him figuring out what that could be.
Exactly. And yeah, that's basically the plot of it. Is they're just kind of each doing their separate things. Eventually, life is kind of pushing them to cross paths here and there. And like we implied, there is something that happens at the end. We'll get into that in just a sec when we get into spoilers. But do you have any other general thoughts for now?
Joe is also engaged when the season starts. He's met this woman named Sarah, and you watch their relationship happen over the course of the season. This new job that he takes is at her father's company. He's trying to like impress the dad to get to marry the daughter. It's that old song and dance.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. It's still really interesting to watch, and there is this still like young company startup punk energy in the show that is a lot of fun. So check it out if you have not yet.
Yeah.
In the meantime, before we get into spoilers, let's get into a bit of housekeeping. If you guys did not know, we have multiple podcasts here at the Whatnauts. You guys can find out more information on our website, which is thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Just type in the Whatnauts and all of our shows will pop up right there. Speaking of our shows, we just released our reactions to WandaVision 1 through 7. That is up on the Reactor Core, and that's core spelled CORPS. So you guys can go check that out on our website, or like I mentioned, your favorite podcasting platform of choice. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We will be returning in like a week or so here to do part 2 and react to the final 2 episodes and theorize and speculate what we might be running into in the MCU down the road. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. Be on the lookout for that. If you guys like what we do, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. We have a $3 tier where you guys can get exclusive content from all of our shows. However, I think going forward, we're going to be doing it a little bit differently, where we would just have one Patreon show that is all-encompassing. So it might be a little bit of this, might be a little bit of the Reactor Core or crossplay, all kind of mixed in there. It's going to be a podcast salad or podcast stir fry or something. I don't know. But yeah, that should be a way to kind of condense and consolidate things for us on our end, but I think it'll be a treat for everyone else because at the end of the day, it's for you. So if you guys hop on that, it might give you a taste of some of the things we do on our other podcasts and stuff. So there you go. Big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier. So thank you, Sam, for helping us out.
Thanks, Sam.
For supporting us for so long. We appreciate it. Thank you. Last but not least, Twitch. If you guys like live streams and video games and stuff like that, we stream each Wednesday, Friday, and I'm going to start streaming on Sunday nights now. So every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. On Wednesdays is Whatnauts Wednesday. We are streaming video games. You guys should come check that out. On Friday nights, we do the Captain's Log, which is another one of our podcasts. And then on Sundays, I'm gonna try and do some more video games and stuff like that. But there you go. That is twitch.tv/thewhatnauts. You guys can subscribe to our channel there. It's about $4.99 for a tier 1 subscription. However, if you have Amazon Prime, you also have Twitch Prime. You just need to link your accounts, and at no extra cost to you have a free subscription to give away, and we would love that to be us here at the Whatnauts, because that is free money for us, and that means we can do bigger and better stuff for you all. I lied. Last but not least, we also have 2 brand new designs in our store, our shirt store and stuff like that. So you guys should go check that out, thewhatnauts.com/store. We have an Oh Ding Dang shirt, which is Melissa's favorite curse word. It's up there in a floral pattern. You can get that on
Thank you.
shirts and hoodies and mugs and all sorts of stuff. We also have a Pride shirt if you guys want to go check that one out as well. But yeah, that is it for housekeeping. There we go. Let's get on to our spoilers. There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Spoiler mode activated. Melissa, where do you want to start with this one?
Would you like to talk about the new characters we got this season? We got Sarah, and then we got Tom, who we had mentioned earlier. Tom is a Mutiny customer who takes one of their games and reprograms it. Like, he kind of takes the code, does it up his own way, and puts it up somewhere else. And then when Cameron and Donna go to confront him, he sort of uses it as a way to get a job interview, which was the plan the whole time. He wasn't trying to steal from them. He was trying to impress them. And then he goes to work for Mutiny, and him and Cameron end up dating.
Yeah. He's one of the new characters. And Sarah is is Joe's fiance.
Fiance, wife, and ex-wife.
Yes, all in one season.
He's dating this lady, and then they get engaged, and then they break up, and then they get married at a courthouse off screen, and then they are divorced within 10 episodes.
So that's the thing that this show does that I don't think is really explicitly stated very well. Each season takes place over a fairly significant amount of time. Like, it's not like this all happened in 1 week, right? Where it's like, oh, they got engaged, married, and then we're like, oh shit, that don't work. There is some time there. There is some months that is going by, which maybe in the grand scheme of things still isn't much time at all. But it's there is a significant amount of time happening within these 10 episodes. So
it would be helpful to have a few more time markers, especially because the show takes place in Dallas, and they're moving to California at the end of the season, so it takes place in places that do not have seasons. So it's not like, there was snow outside, so I can tell how much time has passed.
Countdown, so at the start of this season, they did a thing where it showed Cameron and Joe, and they seem to be on good terms. They seem to be living together, and that was in the future, right?
No, that was a flashback.
That was a flashback. Okay, because there is a time jump, and so I don't remember if that was like, this is in the future, and it's like 3 years ago, blah blah blah. So I guess it's the opposite then of like, that was then, this is now.
It's a flashback to somewhere in season 1, somewhere in late season 1, because she's living at the Coder house. Is halfway through season 1, she gets a house with like Lev and a bunch of other coders, and he's like spending the night there. Yeah, and that's sort of where she gets interested in. Like, she's trying to get him to play the game with her, and he's not interested in the game. Yeah.
Which is a good way to just very briefly say that, like, he's ultimately not interested in what she's doing and what she wants to do. Or this feeling that she's trying to create. He recognizes her talent and stuff, but he's he's like, that's not what he's about, if that makes sense. But
yeah, I don't think he saw the game as innovative.
Time stuff. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess that's its own thing. Like, again, he recognizes that she has talent, that she is the future, that like that was a whole thing in season 1. But yeah, he's just like, he is more the businessman. I'll deal with the numbers, all of that stuff. So it's a different world for him. But to get back to the time and timestamps and stuff like that, I think looking back, I wish there would have been this thing of like, oh, they are moving to California at the start of season 2, and then it goes back, and it's like, here's how we got to them deciding to move to California and do something there, and then there is this like, 300 days until California or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, just something to mark that time is moving forward. It's not just the same week, right? It's this big period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be helpful. It's not a huge problem, but it's just something in the back of my mind, like, I wish I had a better sense of how, like, I can tell it's been some weeks, but like how many weeks, and ultimately doesn't matter. We know it's some assortment of months over the course of season 2 for these relationships to grow and fall apart. But yeah, what did you think about our 2 new characters who got in the roster this season? It doesn't seem like who may or may not be in season 3. We don't know.
I liked Sarah the most, I think.
Oh,
because pretty much everyone we've met in this show is in the tech business. They know how to code or build the hardware or do the business, all of that stuff. She's not involved in any of that stuff. And so like to me, that felt like a good expansion of the cast of like, how do these characters that are so ingrained in this world, how do they deal with and interact with people that are not? Or how does someone who is not in that world, how do they interact with them? And we get some of that, but not much. But that is why I liked her, of just like, like it felt like a natural expansion. Whereas Tom, that's his name, right? He just felt like it's another one of these people that know how to code and do all of that stuff. And to be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of him. He's a totally fine actor and stuff, but his character specifically, I was just like, there's something about you that I just don't like.
I really like Tom. Wow.
Interesting.
I liked him because so he's got this suspicious start where he like copies the game code to revamp it and kind of get his foot in the door at Mutiny. Right. And I don't think he knows like really who works at Mutiny. Like, I don't think he knows, it's this girl named Cameron who runs it. But once he gets there and once he's coding for them, him and Cameron start to flirt, and you see this relationship blossom and crumble over the course of the season. And I felt like he was a good, solid love interest. What really won me over to Tom is that he like walks in on Cameron because, like she lives and works out of the same house. She's never anywhere but this house. It's he walks into her bedroom thinking he can just ask her a question in the middle of the workday, and she's there having a panic attack, and he talks her down from it like really appropriately. I don't have any firsthand experience with this, but I was really impressed that he like knew how to talk with her and calm her down. And he's like, tell me how you solve this one level in Parallax. And she's like, what? And he's like, tell me how you solve it. Like trying to like get her out of the headspace and get her into something more logical, like step by steps where she can just
something she can
zone out and calm out. Yeah. And I thought that was great. And I liked their rapport with each other. He seemed like he would be good for her and good for the company. He just seemed like a solid, nice guy. He takes care of his mom. I thought he was sweet. I thought he was really sweet. And I can certainly respect that he wanted out of the situation by where it got to at the end of the season. But I'm going to miss Tom if he doesn't come back up again. And it's possible that he might, Cameron showed up at his house in the last episode, like 12 hours before the flight leaves with the plane ticket saying, come to California with us. And maybe he does ultimately want to go to California, but he just couldn't decide that in those 12 hours.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's a good character. I don't know why, but I was just like, I don't know about him. I don't like him.
I get it. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that moment with the panic attack was a great moment. I think even when they're discussing should they sell Mutiny or not, and he kind of reveals his secret is a weird way to put that, but the fact that he is actually like dirt poor, his mom doesn't have a job, he really really needs this money, and the fact that she didn't sell screwed him royally. And he's really, really pissed, but he's trying not to be pissed at her specifically. I felt like, he's not he is still trying to be in a relationship with her, and she's just making it difficult and stuff. And he's just trying his damnedest to be like, well, I guess we can work through this, and and stuff. And she's just
really
like, it's mine. I'm selfish, and I want this. And
I love the scene where he comes in and yells at her about not participating in the mutiny party that they're having, and not being on the same level as him, when talking about the game. And he's arguing with her, and she's like, well, fine, if you're gonna quit, just quit. And he's like, I'm not gonna quit. And she's like, well, then break up with me. And he's like, I'm not gonna break up with you either. I'm just angry. We're just arguing. This is what people do. He's like, have you never had a disagreement before? Which was this fascinating look into Cameron's life, where she's such a fine, stubborn, idealistic kind of person. It's like, oh, maybe you never have had an argument that you got past.
Maybe,
He comes in angry, and she presumes the worst and is like, well, just do it. And he's like, I was never planning on doing it. No, I'm angry, but I am committed to you and to this company.
Yeah. They were good additions to the cast. I also have to give a shout out to Babe Dude, as I like to call him. It's the dude from Babe. I don't know his name.
James Cromwell. Yes.
James Cromwell. Thank you. In
treasure.
My mind, he is forever Babe Dude.
And he was like an old man when we were 5 years old, and it's kind of great. And he's still out there being an old man now. And by now, I mean in 2015 when this season came out.
You all think all of these people are vampires out there. They have paintings of their 15th century selves. Here's a real one. Everyone's memory of this guy is he's the old guy from Babe, and he's just always been that. And but he's such a good actor. He is phenomenal. And that is the strange thing of in my mind, if I imagine him old in Babe, how much older must he be now? And he is still just sharp as a tack.
Yes.
He's a great actor. Good God. He's phenomenal.
But you're in good hands with James Cromwell.
Exactly. I liked him too, because he is another character that is not involved in tech. He is this Texas oil company CEO, and Joe McMillan kind of comes into his life to help out his company. They put him on the ground floor, and Joe does not like that, but Joe is starting to get them into tech. and he's like, hey, there's this company called Mutiny, and they're making some great stuff. And we should see about buying their stuff or just buying them. And that is kind of one of the big that I would say is the big thing of season 2 is that they eventually make an offer to buy Mutiny, Cameron's company, and that leads to some issues. But he's a good character. I think this was a good step forward in the plot of like, hey, they are trying to build up these companies by themselves. That's what happens to tech companies, is you build them up and hopefully in 2-3 years you get bought by someone else and take that money to go make something else, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. That is that. So I guess speaking of the buyout, do we want to talk a little bit more about that then? And
yeah, this season was so sad to me. Like, I think in season 1, like, it's got this, this haunting deadline, this ticking clock, and there's like a
tension in season 1. And then, well, like you said, this season is a lot sadder.
Yeah. I think because as you watch more of the show, you come to care about the characters even more. Right. You come to see their good sides even more. So when things blow up in their face and there's like betrayals and secrets and all this, you're like, oh no, can't you guys just be honest? Can't you guys just talk to each other, even though you know that's not possible? You know that's not what you came here for, but you still feel bad about it. Right. And Joe's journey this season is interesting because, as he says in like the last episode or two, he's like, after everything that happened with Cardiff, after all the mistakes I made there, he's like, I wanted to try living my life authentically. I wanted to be honest. I wanted to be sincere. And you've seen this over the course of the season. He's trying to break away from being the Joe that he was in season 1. And he's still got that salesman quality to him, but he knows he was toxic and he's trying not to be that anymore. And it helps a lot that he's got Sarah who really believes in him. Sarah who kind of, Gordon says that when they had dinner with Joe and Sarah, that he's like, Sarah really helped me see what a different man Joe is. I trust him a lot more now than I did a year or two ago. And when Joe says, I was trying to be authentic and the people around me weren't, it's so heartbreaking because this is a season where Joe, he's still not a great guy, but you can see he is trying to be better. And nobody believes him. Or not enough people believe him at any one time.
Yeah, and I think like you said, he is in business. And business often deals with a lot of shady deals and characters who are going behind people's backs and stuff like that. So I think just the things that he is good at and the world that he has surrounded himself with is just counter to what he is trying to do. And by the end of this season, it's just well, fuck it. I'm gonna be who I am. Right.
Or he becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of if everybody tells me I'm an absolute snake, fine, I'll be a snake. If that's what it seems like I'm the best at, if that's what seems comes naturally to me. Which,
to be honest, is kind of why I want to watch this show. I want to see him be this conniving, scheming, businessman. How does he make these deals? How does he get rich? How does he do all of that stuff? I might not like him by the end of the show, but I'm fascinated.
Yeah. Right? And up until
that was kind of the appeal of Breaking Bad. If you guys have seen that show, Walter White, not a good guy at all, but fascinating to watch of just like, what are you doing? How are you doing this? Like, why? And yeah, like I want that same feeling with Joe.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that is, even if it's not good, it is appealing as a form of entertainment to watch him be a snake.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about Sarah for a bit. I also liked Sarah. I appreciated that she was like a very headstrong, independent, smart lady. But Sarah never felt like she fit into the cast, and not in the way that you're talking about where she's the outsider who doesn't know tech. I think that perspective is valuable. But Sarah felt like when we first met Donna in like the first episode of season 1, and it seems like Donna is just the stakes of Gordon's life. Like, we're just going to watch Gordon happen to Donna. And then, you know, Donna evolves. Donna is such a major player. She does so many things. She's so active. I'm not saying Sarah isn't active as an individual person, but the show is things happening to and around Sarah, and it's not Sarah. Sarah is not a chaos agent the way the rest of the cast is. Sarah does not do anything that screws up anything else that's happening. And I wanted that from her. Like, I want to see you like fit into this cast, step up and do something crazy. And she never did.
I mean, maybe she will in season 3.
Yeah.
Who knows?
She's in California. You know, she's going to be there. We don't know what. California is a big state. We don't know where in California she is. She might not be in the Bay Area, but it seems like she is still out there, that she could come back. I think there's a lot more they can do with Sarah. I was really hoping to see her interact more with Cameron and Donna. I think one of the strengths of this season is watching Cameron and Donna's friendship grow, you know, and see them become like real partners with each other. And I kind of wanted to see Sarah get in on that. I was really hoping that after like the second to last episode, when like, so the craziest thing Sarah does do in this season is that it's like her and Joe are going to move to California, and it's their last night in Dallas. And Sarah's idea is, let's take these drugs and go out to like a discotheque. Like, let's say goodbye to Dallas this way. And like they go to this club. Joe has this really sincere moment where he's pleading to her. He's completely high and he's like, I've got goodness in me and I feel like it's trapped and I don't know how to break it out. I don't know how to give it to anybody. I know I can do it, but I don't know how. It's very sad. And they're going to go have sex in her father's server room. Like, that's the last thing they're going to do in Dallas. Let's just have sex on dad's equipment. And that's when they see that West Group has stolen Mutiny's IP, that they've completely cloned it and taken it over. And so Joe goes to Mutiny and he's still completely high and like he's having such a hard time explaining himself. And he walks into this room of people who are all glaring at him. They all think it's his fault. And he's struggling. Like, all of his smooth talking salesmanship is gone. Like, he does not have the faculties to summon it at this point. He's like, I didn't do it. I'm going to California. He's trying. It's so, it's rough. And I was hoping there'd be a scene after that where Sarah would like go to Mutiny the next day when they've sobered up and try and explain, seriously, this was not Joe. You have to believe him. Like, I want you to see the Joe that I see. And the story divulged from that and it went some other interesting places. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen her interact a bit more with other members of the cast.
Yeah, that is a great point where she mainly interacts with Joe, and that's it.
Yeah, Joe and her dad.
So that is maybe the downside to Sarah's character, is she is not only on the fringe but mainly isolated.
Yeah.
So, so I guess to circle back around to some things, they try to buy out. What's the name of the company that's trying to buy them out?
West Group. And the way this all starts is that Joe's working in like data entry, and he sees that they have these big server machines that are only processing information like during the working hours of the company, 9 to 5. And he says, we should take this space, this processing power that we
Sell
have,
it.
and lease it out.
Yeah.
So like Mutiny is the first client, and he wants to, you can tell that he believes that he made like the right business decision for the Giant by not including Cameron's operating system, but he feels bad about the way things ended with her, and he wants to do something for her while being aware that he has messed things up in the past, and he has to really be careful and try and provide something to her while being as hands-off as possible. So he's like, I'm just going to set this deal up. Hopefully she'll never know it's me. And like I can help the company grow and secretly from here in the shadows. And then it gets to the point where they want to try and buy Mutiny, and he has to confront her. And he's trying to sell her like a legitimately good deal. You know, he really wants to make sure like, no, you're going to get something out of this. We're not going to take advantage of you. That's his idea as the salesman. And then he talks to James Cromwell about it, who's like, oh no, we're going to nuke the games. The games aren't important. And like, he sees that he has completely sinister plans for what they're going to buy.
Or not even sinister, but just a complete
cold
lack of understanding of what makes this company special, which happens all the time, right? Where like, hey, we buy this company up because they've been profitable or this and that, but then we're killing the main thing that they do and we're using the tech for something else. And it's just like, well, that's, you know, if you really liked that company, that sucks. Because then like they can't do what they do. As a video game fan, that happens all the time, where it's like, oh, Microsoft bought up this company, or EA bought up this game studio, but then shut down that studio and used the employees somewhere else. And it's just like, well, now we're not gonna get the thing that we wanted from that studio. So but go ahead.
No, then he goes to Cameron, and where he was trying to sell her on this before, sincerely sell her on it, you know, not in a duplicitous way. He comes to her like, I've talked to Jacob Wheeler. He's going to tear your company apart. You know, he's going to pack it apart like a vulture. He's like, I don't want that to happen to you again. Don't sell. And she's like, and she's still suspicious. She's like, where do you fit into this? And he's like, nowhere. I'm going to completely get out of your way. He's taking himself. He wants to give something to her, but he also knows he has to take himself out of her life completely.
Yeah. It's an interesting issue for Joe, and then it becomes an interesting issue for Cameron, who really wants to be independent. Wants this thing to be her, wants to have the success be entirely her, but she also has kind of tricked herself into thinking that the way she's set things up is not selfish, right? Like the whole idea behind Mutiny is there's no bosses, you can do what you want and all of that stuff, but then it's like, well, deep down you also think that this is your company, which makes you the boss. And it's an interesting struggle for her, because she is this like punk kid, right, who dropped out of college to work at Cardiff Electric and make this computer, and now she's trying to start her own company and be a business woman, and she is just not good at it. Like, this is not her expertise at all. And that's why Donna is there being the mom, and Boswell is there being the dad of like, hey, here's how we actually make this company kind of run.
Cameron's, she kind of seems like she feels like everybody feels the same way she does. Like, Cameron, for most of season 1, was like sleeping in Cardiff Electric and like just eating chips and soda to live on. And like when she needed a new shirt, she went to the store and she stole it. Like, she was living so meagerly in exchange for getting to work on this project. And it seems like that's a setting in her head that is okay. Like she's willing to make all kinds of sacrifices, have like the lowest lifestyle to work on something that she loves and work on something that she thinks is important. She kind of, and like everybody else is kind of on her level, you know, the other coders, you know, they just crash there. They're also entirely fueled by pizza. They don't seem like they really have outside lives outside of the company. But there's the scene where she's got Joe's sales pitch and she takes it out to the rest of the coders and she's like, do we want to sell to the man? You know, do we want to just work in an office full of suits? And like they're all cheering and like she takes the paper and she tears it up in front of them. Like, no, we're not taking the deal. We're not selling out. And then later they've taken the paper. They've taken the paper and they've taped it back together. And they're like, Cameron, yeah, like we agree with your sentiment, but you didn't tell us this could have been $5 million because like they've had to like cut payroll. They're like, okay, guys, we can't pay you right now to get our server project off the ground. They're like, it's really apparent that she could keep living like this, but a lot of the people around her can't.
I think it's also, it's definitely that, but I think it's also the idea that she just didn't even mention how much the deal was worth. Again, she wants this to be a democratic thing. And she got up there being like, do we want to do this? And they're all like, no. Do we want to work for suits? No. And so she just rips it up. But she never
she doesn't give them all
money.
The information.
And yeah, so they're just out of curiosity is like, I wonder how much it was worth, and they see how much and they're just like, oh shit, like that changes things. Like money can change things, and that doesn't mean that they wouldn't have all quit their jobs and then gone on to start something else. They'd still have that money though, right? So it's just like she took away that choice from them. So she's being a bit self-destructive.
Yeah, and something I noticed this season is that after Joe McMillan has left their lives, you can see that he is rubbed off on Gordon in kind of a positive way. Like there's a scene where Gordon, he's trying to start this computers built to your preference, like this custom built computer company out of his garage, because he's figured out he's not the idea guy, but he loves to just get an assignment and work on it and like innovate within that structure. So he makes this mail order program out of his garage. He puts an ad in tech magazines like, tell us what you want. We will build it for you and ship it out to you. And he's got these other, tech buddies, like old Cardiff colleagues around him. And the spiel he's giving them is such a Joe McMillan thing, but in a very sincere way. Like Joe helped Gordon be more confident, better spoken, like you can see that he had a positive effect on Gordon for as troubling of a force as he may have been in his life. But then you look at Cameron, and Cameron, I think the choices she made this season, a lot of them she would not have made if she was the same person as earlier on in season 1. But after Joe turned his back on her OS, that like made her sharper.
Back to
like she's become more protective of her ideas and her legacy.
Because there is this scene in season 1 where she gets her first paycheck, right? And she's just like, shit, money. Fuck yeah. And she just goes on a bender, right? Yeah. And like that, I think is such a fun scene and is a good parallel to, again, to Mr. Robot when we get those scenes of Rami Malek with his Starbucks and he's all happy. Like it's that, but then because things went south at Cardiff Electric and her operating system didn't get put in the computer, she took that personally and it's just like, well, fuck it. Screw you all. I'm going to do my own thing and show you that I can make something great. And that is what she's trying to do. And that's why she rips up this contract of just like, well, screw them. Like, we're not going to bend a knee to them. And meanwhile, everyone else is in the position she was in season 1, where they're just like, first paycheck, $5 million. Holy fuck.
And I mentioned in the season 1 episode how Gordon and Joe come to the giant project with a personal baggage and like somebody they are trying to show up. Like Joe really wants to stick it to IBM because that's the company his father worked for, and he's so angry at his father. And Gordon tried to sell the Symphonic, and it completely blew up in his face when he took it to Comdex. He needs to build a computer. He needs to build a computer that will sell. Like that's his vendetta. Like he needs to prove his past wrong. And Cameron didn't have that same baggage in season 1. She was very stubborn about her ideas, but she didn't take them personally. She had ideas that were what she thought was just the best thing for people. What will take computing forward for just the human race? You know, she doesn't have somebody in her past who she's trying to prove wrong. But this season she does. And it makes her decisions a lot more catastrophic when she's acting so personally, trying to prove Joe wrong. And it really wrecks things for the rest of Mutiny around her.
Yeah. I have a couple other things I want to talk about. We definitely need to talk about Gordon.
Yes.
Because he has I don't want to say insane, but he has a very interesting storyline.
Yeah.
And then there was something else that I'm now blanking on. So let's start with Gordon, and maybe I'll remember it by time we get there. So Gordon, his character kind of takes a turn. Like we said, he's kind of floundering and trying to figure out what to do with all this money and time that he now has. He started up his own business out of the garage to build these personal computers, but that isn't really his story in season 2. In season 2, he finds out that he is sick, that he has this like really acute brain damage, and that it could progress.
Yeah, and it's from
very quickly.
And it's from his work. It's from like being exposed to like lead solder. So it's him working on all this hardware. And then we learned that like his parents had a garage, you know, like an automotive shop. And like he grew up working there too. And so through the variety of technical hardware jobs he's had, he's been exposed to so many dangerous things.
Yeah, and it's slowly taking a toll on him, but it finally got to the point where he needed to go to a doctor to be like, hey, what's happening? It's just like they're saying that he might have some memory loss, some periods of confusion of just like, where am I? What happened? Or like muscle atrophy, right? Where they'll things just won't work as they're supposed to work. And Gordon is panicking because I think when we first met him in season 1, he was just a nobody, right? He was a pushover. Yeah. He was this guy who thought he was on to something, and maybe he was, as Joe recognizes. But it didn't happen. And so he's just like, well, I guess I'm just gonna be someone who shows up 9 to 5 and has a miserable life. But Joe inspired him to see that that is not the case, that he actually is smart and he can make these things and he can basically do what he wants as long as he puts his mind to it. And then he gets hit with this of like, you can do all of that stuff, but maybe very quickly here you won't be able to. And so, he panics and just psychologically makes it worse. Yeah. Where stuff is happening and he has these moments where all of a sudden he has a flashback and he thinks he's talking to his colleagues at Cardiff Electric. Yes. And everyone is confused. And like you said, it's these moments, it's that, or when he can't find his car in the parking lot, or when he's he's thinking that his friend stole his idea for this business and stuff like that. And he's so paranoid that he is losing things faster than he actually is. And it's making things worse. And like you said, it makes this season so sad to see him also self-destruct. Because like in season 1, that is not his character. Like, he might need to learn to stand up for himself. But then, here in season 2, he ends up, whether he likes it or not, or he's doing it subconsciously or not, he's self-destructive. It's just like, no, Gordon, no.
Go right.
Like, think of Donna. She's working for Mutiny. That's not a stable situation. Let's let's get a handle on things so she can continue to be the mom and work at Mutiny. Because despite the chaos that is Mutiny, she likes it there. Like, she feels like she can make a difference there. So. I think Gordon's character was a wild one. I think, to me, that was the biggest turn. Yes, of the characters, like him and Joe, were the biggest turns of, like, they were this one thing, but now they're this thing. Like, that's strange, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think, like you explained for Cameron, like, her progression makes more sense in
you can see how everything happened. And this turn with Gordon really recontextualizes a lot of his behavior in season 1. Like, there's a scene where a doctor asks Donna, now, has he displayed any manic behavior before? And we remember, of course, when he digs a hole in the backyard.
Digging up,
and we remember
digging.
We remember him hallucinating, not exactly a hallucination, but like having these flashes of himself electrocuted in the street after he sees the person who was knocked down by a power line after the hurricane. Like, we see these things when we know he wasn't in the best mental state, and we're like, oh, that was medical. That wasn't just situational. Yeah. And it's scary for the season to come, because if he's this rough in season 2, what's he going to be like in seasons 3 and 4? How's he going to progress? And the doctor says that a lot of it is, at the end, like, it's more psychological than medical. Medically, he hasn't gotten worse.
Right.
But like, this is a man who needs some therapy. He needs some counseling. He needs to work through a lot of things. The journey of both of the Clarks this season is so sad, because like he's gotten this terrible news, and he wants to tell Donna, but Donna is always like rushing out the door, getting to Mutiny. Like, she's really putting Mutiny first, because Mutiny needs her that badly. We've seen what a mess it is over there, so we can't blame her.
Kind of interesting, because that situation was flipped in season 1, where she's like, you've done this in the past, where you've gotten so into your work that you ignore the family and stuff like that. And now it's the exact opposite in season 2, where she is so into her work, she's kind of ignoring the family, and he's just like, well, I guess I gotta do all of this stuff. So
and like, so he doesn't tell her, because he's like, I can't add that burden to her life right now, so he like keeps it a secret for a while. And there's an episode where he goes out to California to visit his brother, and it's to like get a break, take the girls away for a while and to check on his brother. We learned that he has this younger brother. Is this the guy from Lucifer? He looked familiar. Is this the like mustache cop who came back as a demon in season 1 of Lucifer?
It definitely is. I recognized him, and I was like, oh, I've seen him before in something, but it never registered to me where I saw him. I was just like, oh, that guy.
Yeah, we'll get one Lucifer alum every season in the show.
Right, yeah.
He goes out to see his brother, You can tell that part of it is he's worried about his brother. Like if he knows he's gotten this diagnosis, his life isn't going to be the same. He may die young. You can see him kind of trying to take care of things. Like he gives Donna's parents a $23,000 check for all the money they gave him like 10 years ago to try and start the symphonic.
Her mom is a dick. I don't like her at all.
Yeah.
That scene was frustrating where she is like, God, just like what we were expecting, that since you made it rich, you were just gonna pay us back for, the like 2,300,000 that you, or however much. And he's trying to call her bluff and just like, well, I'll write you a check right now if that's what you want, right? And he's like, I'm writing the check. Like, when are you gonna be like, oh no, I'm just kidding. You don't have to do that. We're family.
Yeah.
Like, and he just nope. Writes him the check. Here you go.
Yeah. Lady seems like a quality grandma. Not great as a mother.
Well, they also don't really like him.
They've never liked him. And like anytime he, like they sit down and they have this talk, and she's, like he brings the girls over to like play video games on, new equipment that the grandpa has gotten in from his
Nintendo
tech trading. Yeah, brand new Nintendo. And he sits there and he like actually sits down with the grandma and like has a glass of wine. Seems like they never do this. He stays and visits with her while the kids are playing. And she's like, you're funny, Gordon. Like, she can tell she's having a better time and she has a higher opinion of him now that he's taken the time to spend with her than she ever has before. But when he says like, how could I ever pay you back? You can tell she's like, literally, it is north of $22,000, Gordon. Like, not great. But so Gordon goes out to California, and he's like, he goes to the bar with his brother, and like the waitress is some girl that they knew in high school. And then later he's like, hey, mind if I borrow your truck? I want to take it up and go see Dad, out in the mountains where he lives or wherever. And instead he goes to that bar and he picks up that waitress and he wants to talk to her about like, how much is my brother drinking? Like, is he okay? Like, he's trying to do this positive action of talking to somebody to make sure that like his brother isn't also falling into an absolute disaster of a life the way he almost has in some ways. Gordon's had kind of a drinking problem. They never make a large plot point of it, but it is hovering there vaguely at the edges that this could also be a threat. Mm-hmm. And he ends up sleeping with this woman and confessing everything to her, that like he has this brain damage. He doesn't know how to tell his wife. And it seems like the sex was almost an afterthought. He needed an emotional release more than a physical release. Because he's like, I can't tell Donna. I have to tell somebody. I have to vent to somebody. And the woman like takes that
She's
badly. Like, don't put this on me.
I'm
don't burden
not
me
your
with
therapist. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I'll sleep with you once and
women
leave.
Don't
That's
exist
okay.
to be your therapist.
Yeah. She takes it so poorly. And when he does tell Donna that he has this brain damage, you can see that almost kind of worked, that like he got his frustrations out on somebody else. And when he talks to Donna, it's less about telling her how scared he is and more about him trying to comfort her. And then later he confesses that he did have an affair, and he's like, I hate myself every day that I did that. But I looked around for my marriage when I was in trouble and it wasn't there.
Which, yeah, like that I think is what makes the fight and the friction between Gordon and Donna so interesting, because I don't want to say he's right, but he's right. Like, she wasn't there.
Yeah.
But she takes that so like, how dare you say that to me? Because it absolutely is one of those things like, hey, if you mentioned this at the start, like that would have changed things.
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, it's one of those things of like, communicate. What are you doing? You're adults.
Right.
Like,
right.
Talk about this thing. What are you doing?
Like, there's some progress being made. The one thing I appreciate about the Clark marriage is that there's there's no bad guy. Both of them have made mistakes.
I would say they're both in the wrong, but I guess we're both getting at the same thing, though.
Yeah. Like, both of them have a lot of things to work on, and you can tell that progress is being made. Like, Gordon is a lot gentler with Donna being obsessed with her work because she was that for him, and she was angrier at that time at him than he is with her. I think because he knows now what she's going through. So he knows to be a bit more patient with her. He knows to kind of step it up and be a more active dad to the kids, because there was a lot of time when he wasn't. So he's like, this is the pendulum swinging the other way. You can tell that he kind of gets that in some regard. But and she's trying too. One storyline this season that is still hanging over our heads is that Donna got pregnant and she was like, I barely have a marriage anymore. I never see my husband. I never see my kids. I don't have any time to give to my kids. It wouldn't be fair to them to bring another baby in the world. I'm so busy with Mutiny too that she has an abortion, and she's never told Gordon any of this. Didn't tell him she was pregnant, didn't tell him she had an abortion. And Gordon confesses his big secret to her, that he had an affair, but she does not tell him this. And the season ends, and this is still hanging over her head. And we don't know when she's going to tell him this.
Right. The difficult scene for me with Donna's whole abortion thing is that she's telling her mom that she had a miscarriage. And she's like, she's almost playing it like, hey, what if I didn't have this baby and I had to talk to people about it like that instead of just like, let's role play and like do this scenario. And her mom seems fine with it, of just like, oh, I'm so sorry, like that really sucks, but like, hey, maybe it's for the better and things. And she's like, yeah, maybe it's for the better, because I do have work and this and that. And then like you realize that she didn't have a miscarriage, and she still has it. And then when she finally has a small moment of connection with Cameron, they go together to get the abortion. And once you realize that, you're just like, oh shit, like, she's struggling with this and what to do, because last we see her when they're on the airplane, Gordon and Donna are trying to rekindle their marriage, and they think California will be a good fresh start. And he seems in a better mental state, right? And he's just like, hey, I think this will be good. Maybe we'll have time for another kid. And she's just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go use the bathroom. And then she just busts out crying when she makes it in the bathroom. And yeah, it's so sad.
Yeah.
So sad.
I hope the Clarks are on their way somewhere good. Donna gives him like a literal cost to save their marriage, almost like her mother did. Like, here's the literal cost to pay us back, where she's
ultimatum,
like, yeah, you're going to give almost all of the money left that you got from the Cardiff buyout. You are going to buy the server mainframe in California. You're going to pay for us to get a house out there. Mutiny's moving out there. We're moving out there as a family. You're going to work for Mutiny. We're going to do this together. And what she says is, we can't keep taking turns with one of us holding the kite strings while the other person is out there chasing a dream. That's not sustainable. And I really look forward to them working together on the same project, because I think they do work together very well. And I think that will clear out a lot of secrets, and distraction from their marriage. If they can balance it to where they both, spend time with the kids, that's the real struggle. That's the major worry now. But I think both of them working on the same thing in the same environment will be a good improvement. I really hope that it is.
Absolutely. Speaking of the airplane is the second thing that I wanted to talk about, and that scene in particular. Because, they all kind of, Mutiny thinks that, like, hey, there's this server that we need to buy, because if we are doing the timeshare stuff that Joe McMillan started, we're never going to be profitable. Like, we need to have our own server so that we can get all of the profit from that and expand and do all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And they don't really have the money to buy a server, but they have just enough to be like, what if we go to the server and stuff? Like, let's just move the company to the spot. So that is the plan. And that is what Gordon and Donna end up doing. That's what Cameron ends up doing. Again, I don't know the actor's name, but the big Hawaiian or Samoan.
Oh yeah, Yo-Yo's back.
He's back. He's like, he at one point quit, and he's back. Like, I'm happy that he's back there. But that scene was great as they're like waiting for someone to come on the plane. I don't know.
Cameron's waiting for Tom.
Cameron is waiting for Tom. I was expecting Joe to show up on the plane. In this like weird thing of like, maybe Cameron reached out to him for some reason of just like, look, you screwed up, but you warned us about this one thing. You do have some good in you or something. Like, let's go work together on this thing. And so I was expecting that, but I think what they gave us instead was just as good. Like, right, like you don't see the door, but then you hear this, and then you see it, and it's Boswell, and he's like, let's go to the big city, boys.
I love Boss. I love getting that glimpse of his private life this season. I love when he goes to this one Mutiny subscriber's house to find out, like, let's extend a personal touch. Let's find out why they canceled their subscription.
He's a great salesman,
It's a teenage boy whose mom canceled his account, and he like talks the mom back into signing up for the account again. And then the next episode, he's taking that mom out for dinner.
Yeah, it's great.
Great. I'm so happy he gets to stay a part of this, even if I will miss Tom.
Yeah, he's an interesting character because, Boswell's storyline is he gets out of jail, is convinced that no one will hire him because now he's an ex-convict, and so he goes to work for Mutiny. And he likes it there. It's fun.
Yeah.
But he's getting old, right? Like he needs something maybe a little more steady, maybe a little less chaotic. And so his son sets him up with a job, at some firm doing God knows what. And he just has this moment of just like, I don't care. Like, this is boring. Like, I don't want to be here. And then the next time we see him, he's like, well, boys, I never thought I'd say this, but let's move to the big city.
Happy Boss is here to sustain our Texan energy when we go to San Francisco.
It's so good because he is absolutely like the sore thumb that just sticks out and is just like, you don't belong here. But we're so happy to have you here. Like, you're such a light. And I think another one of my favorite scenes that I related to so hard is when he's in the kitchen and he's trying to make coffee. And he's just blasted this one dude of like, what the machine is here, but if I want the sugar, it's all the way over there, and then I have to go back over here to do this thing. Like, just make one station. And like, at my job, I am basically a nobody. I'm kind of at the bottom of the ladder. But we have so many systems and things that we do that just make no sense. It's like, why would we do it this way when we can just do it this way? And it saves us half the time. Like, why? What are you guys thinking? And I was just like, I relate to this so much. Oh my god. So it was good.
I want to.
He's good.
There's two more scenes I want to talk about before we wrap up. One of which is after Gordon has gotten his diagnosis, you see him go to this discotheque. And there's this beautiful woman dancing, and like for a moment he looks at her and she turns into Donna, like a young Donna. And later in the episode we find out that was a place they would go all the time when they were dating. And it's this woman who's like looking at him and trying to be friendly, like, hey, welcome why aren't you dancing? And Gordon just stands there and says, I have brain damage.
I think I'm dying. And she's just
she can't hear him, and she's like, oh, I love that band.
Yeah.
that's I love the dreamy weirdness that the show can bring us sometimes, particularly through Gordon. And there's a scene where the coders, I love all the background coder nonsense. You can see in the background that Mutiny has like a pet hamster, that there's like a bunch of hamster tubes set up on one bookshelf.
Yep.
There's a scene where they're betting action figures with each other. Like, I'll bet my Kang the Conqueror. And they're like, well, I'll bet my Doctor Doom. And you don't know what they're betting about. And then they throw wacky wall walkers at the wall.
To see which one falls off. Yeah.
And then that's the episode where Lev gets ambushed and beat up, and then you see him in the hospital room and somebody's brought their black Spider-Man there. Like, I owe you this, Lev. Let black costume Spider-Man bring you his good energy.
Yeah, I like all the Marvel references because I think that was around the time when he started writing comics for Marvel. I think when Chris Cantwell started writing, because he's doing Iron Man now. I know he's done Doctor Doom, and I don't know if he's done anything else or not. I'm not sure. I know he has some creator-owned stuff, but yeah, it's just neat that he put in these like Easter eggs of like, hey, down the road, Marvel. Here we go. You know?
I like how sparingly pop culture is used as a time marker in this show, but when it's used well. Like, I love that one of the dates Cameron and Tom are supposed to go on is that he's rented the Terminator. And this is when like VHS is new. It's like a very impressive thing that you have a VHS tape of a movie. And like she kind of bails on the date, and instead it's all of Mutiny watching it together.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'll show it to the guys then if you're not interested.
Yeah, this I really enjoyed this season. I guess the last thing I want to talk about is how this sets up season 3. Because I think, like we mentioned, Joe is back to being his conniving self, right? Where he gets this brilliant idea to take Gordon's code that was originally the virus that he accidentally let loose on Mutiny, and he then fixes it, and it is now the cure. Like, this is the antivirus software for this specific virus. And Joe takes that and is like, we'll sell the cure. Like we can make antivirus software out there. That's another thing that is kind of fascinating with this show that I don't necessarily know if I like, but there's so many times where they stumble on to some like major technological advancement. They're like, we can do this. Like, this is going to be the future. Instant messaging, antivirus software, video games, like all of this stuff. And it's just like, how many of these things are they going to come up with? Right? Like, it just, come on. But yeah, and then he has this brilliant idea, and he wants Gordon in. Like, he is actively trying to do the right thing, but still be his like, hey, I have a brand new idea. This will make us rich. Like, we have something here. And he catches Gordon at a time where he's just not having it. Like, he's just like, hey, dude, I can't talk. Like, I'm in the middle of something. Yeah, right
it's
now.
right
like,
after. It's right after Donna's given him this ultimatum, and they're like about to sit down to dinner with their kids and tell them we're all moving to California.
Right. He's just like, I can't deal with you and your shit right now.
Yeah. It's like, I have to devote myself to my family and now mutiny.
Yeah, and then it's legitimately on the plane when he sees the newspaper or the magazine or something where it's like, hey, Joe McMillan lands $10 million deal on antivirus software. He's just like, fuck. like that. Like, if I had said no and done this, like, we would have had the money to get the server here. We could have kept our family here. We could have kept Mutiny. Like, everything would have been different. And now, like, there is now more tension between him and Joe because he now thinks he stole his idea.
Unfortunate, because as rocky as every romantic relationship, new and old, was this season, I appreciated that the friendships were growing. You get to see Donna and Cameron become these great partners. And the moments of friendship between Joe and Gordon were really touching. Like, both of them, like, Gordon is Joe's only friend, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know,
he's the one that's like, hey, I'm in jail for breaking into my friend's house and accusing him of stealing my company, even though he did none of it. I can't call Donna. Come bail me out. Yeah, right.
And I can't call Stan because I did that to him. So you're my one friend left, Joe. Yeah. Like, seeing the two of them be friends, seeing the two of them like check in with each other, like, hey, are you okay? Like, you don't seem like you're doing so hot. Like, do you need anything? Like, they've been through such a crucible together working on the Giant that did kind of bond them in some way. And I like that they were, like, Joe in particular was aware of that. Like, when he shows up, before he's about to leave for California, he shows up to Gordon and he gives him this, like, chip off of that original IBM clone they made. And I took it sincerely that Joe, you know, like, he's not trying to sell Gordon anything. He's like, I held on to this because it reminded me of where I got started and what I could do if I really had good people working with me. And, you know, it's brought me a lot of strength. And I want to say thank you for, you know, riding along with my wild idea that time.
Yeah. Like, that is where I want to see the show go down the road. Is I want to see them having grown, I guess, is that the way to say that? They have grown from all of their experiences, and I want to see them use that to then somehow bring them all back together on some company, and they just nail it, right? Like, they all know their part, they all respect one another, of like, hey, this is your expertise, like, you make the business decision, or like, hey, you, like, this is the operating system, does this fit, you know? And I want them to be this, like, well oiled machine, and I think they're getting closer to that.
I hope so. Yes,
but there's still just this, like, he just stole my idea and made $10 million off of this. What the hell, right? Like, I want to see them somehow grow past that stuff.
Yes,
and
that is my.
Just nail it.
That's what I want for these characters. It's like, I'm not super into Joe and Cameron as a couple, but I really want them to be creative partners. Like, I want them to be able to work together. I want them to be friends. Yeah. I hope that's where it ends up. Season 3, one interesting thing we're going to get with this move to San Francisco is this season and season 1 had a lot of thievery. There's always the threat of somebody taking what it is you're working on, of copying your idea, and you don't have any way to defend yourself against that. they've been in Dallas, which is not a tech hub. They're going to San Francisco. If they're talking about something while walking down the street to a coffee shop, somebody who's in the know could take that and run with it somewhere else.
Yeah. That or just like, hey, we've had experience with this in the past. We need to either make our own or partner with some like IT security firm or start hiring those people to secure our stuff, right? I think Cameron is slowly learning the idea of like, hey, this is my IP, like this is my intellectual property. As much as I want to be a punk and like do all of the, this like anti-establishment, anti-capitalism stuff, I need to protect what's mine, right?
Yeah.
And that means putting copyrights and this and that and putting firewalls or whatnot on the server and on the mainframe and who knows what. Like they are learning these things. They are learning from their mistakes. And I think it will make them stronger in the end.
Yeah.
So there you go. There you go. Good stuff. Do you have anything else that you want to say for season 2 of Halt and Catch Fire?
I enjoyed it. It was a sad ride, but I think it brought a lot of really interesting new things to the table. And I'm excited for season 3 and how this new setting and new goals could bring us a completely different kind of energy.
Yeah. Season 2, I thought was still very, very good. I don't want to say I liked it less because I liked it about the same, but I think season 1 had much more of an excitement to it.
Yeah.
Whereas this was a little more mellowed out. I ended up binging most of it in like one night. And I think the show is very bingeable because of the tension that is in the show. It does a great job of that without giving you a real cliffhanger. One thing I do miss that wasn't really in this show was the mysteriousness that was in season 1 of like, who is Joe? What are these scars? Like, what is like there were these weird things. And they don't really address the like him burning the giants. They mention that he did that and that's why he didn't get money from the buyout. But like that was it. There was no like, what was your plan? What were you thinking? There's no explanation.
He was just angry. I don't think that was one of the times when he does not have a plan, when he doesn't have an ulterior motive. He just needs to destroy.
Go to a gym, hit a punching bag, like go take your baseball bat and destroy your own furniture. Why this? I don't get it. I don't understand it. And it's just
another thing
not explained.
One more thing. Season 1 ends when Joe is going off to this observatory, and I certainly thought he's going to go look for his mom because his mom was a stargazer. And season 2 begins, and like he found Sarah there.
Yeah.
As a journalist doing some report on the observatory, and that's how their relationship gets started. Is he still looking for his mom?
Mom. And they both happen to meet up there, and the stuff with the mom is maybe not important right now, and maybe we'll see it in season 3 or 4 or something, and it'll be a flashback. That's why he's been acting like this, or something.
I didn't get the impression that his mom was there at all, which seemed odd because that really felt like how season 1 was ending. I think the season 2 beginning didn't feel like the next connective step from how it ended. But maybe his mom's in San Francisco. Maybe that's where she ended up.
I was also kind of expecting whoever he was looking for at the observatory to be like a key figure in the company, to be like, if we bring them on, it'll fix things and smooth things over. And, version 2 of the Giant now, with the brand new operating system. And that was not the case. Like we didn't get those mysterious tidbits in season 2, and I kind of miss those. Like I like the almost surrealist nature of those things there. But oh well.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
We'll have to wait and
where
see.
it goes in season 3. This is interesting because I don't know anything about this show or where it's going or where it ended up. And
literally
stuff like that.
all I know is that the like photo for this show when you're on like the info page on Netflix is a
4.
cast photo. Okay, because all I know is that it's Cameron with different hair. It's like, at some point we're going to get to a point where the cast is bigger. I didn't really look at who was in it. It's like, there's more people. And Cameron is more traditionally, professionally dressed.
Yeah.
Whoa, what happens to Cameron to get her there?
Going.
Yeah.
Right? Because she's having to get rid of her punks. We've talked about we've talked about all of that. But yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. We normally do recommendations at this point in the podcast. However, for these end of the month specials, we reserve them for the first time we cover it and the last. So we will not be doing recommendations this week and instead go on to what would have been our pitches. But we like to pitch what we are doing for the week after we cover our end of the month special thing the week like the 2 weeks before, so we've already picked it.
Yes.
If you do that, so next week, give me just a sec.
Yep, get your big nice hardcover.
Getting the book here. Next week, in honor of WandaVision, we are going to read The Vision by Tom King and Gabriel Hernandez Walta, and I believe Jordi Belair on the covers.
Okay.
This is one of my favorite books, or my favorite comics of all time. It is splendid. It is wonderful. Melissa knows that every chance I've gotten, I've been like, this book is amazing. Go read it. So yeah, highly recommend this book. I know WandaVision has been pulling certain things from this book. This is one of them that they have been like, okay, we're gonna cherry pick this thing and that thing and stuff like that. So if you guys have been enjoying WandaVision, go read this book. Absolutely. And also go check out our reactions to 1 through 7. And if you are watching or listening to this next week or some time, I think we'll have part 2 up there as well. It's 12 issues.
Okay.
I believe the first half of it is available on Comixology Unlimited.
Yes.
And you can buy volume 2 on there as well. But yeah, I have a real nice hardcover edition.
Cool.
I like to describe this book as what if Breaking Bad, but The Vision.
Okay.
He is trying to have a nice, normal life with his family, and things go wrong. And then they keep going wrong, and they just dig themselves deeper and deeper and deeper in their own graves. And so it's a fascinating read. So there you go. That's what we're up to for next week. But with that, I guess that wraps us up. So Melissa, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, where me and my brother Jams talk about weird old kids shows you feel like only you remember.
There you go. Good stuff. If you want to stay up to date with me, I am at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter. If you want to stay up to date with our shows and all of our podcasts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So go like, share, subscribe, do all of that stuff. Please go rate and review if you like the show. That would help us out a ton, especially since we are smaller creators, and just it would help us get the show out to more people. So yeah, if you guys have nice things to say and you like what we do, that would help us out a ton. It takes 2 seconds. Seriously. So yeah, go do all of that stuff. But with that, This has been episode, I don't remember what one we were on.
143?
143, I believe.
146.
146. Oh, man.
It's
we're
3
getting up
more
there.
than 3.
146. Yeah, that's right. So with that, we will get out of here. We will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.